All right, guys, we are live again on another Sunday evening for the weekly Mac Forum video chat. I hope that you had a good week computer-wise for the previous week. It's certainly not been very boring, I'll say that. Just want to update you on a couple of things. We've got some the usual forum roundup coming up. We've got some Yosemite tips and tricks. I've got a couple of things from MacWorld that compare both Yosemite to Windows 10, and also they're a little bit of a comparison of El Capitan to Windows 10 based on what we know from the El Capitan beta. So we'll see what things they like better in Mac, what things they like better in Windows. Just to give you a heads up, there were a couple of things that they thought Windows 10 did a little bit better. So we'll get to that. We'll get to a couple of tips and tricks, including one that I don't remember. I haven't had a chance to go back through the old show notes. I don't think we've talked about this one before, but that includes a way to record your the screen of your iOS device from your Mac, and you've been able to do that for a while with third-party software, but this little tip will allow you to use some software that's already on your Mac that you already own, so no need for third-party software on that regard. So we'll take a look at that as well. Just get my cursor set up here, checking a couple of things, and we'll let you go. We'll get the show off to a rousing start here, just to keep you updated. First of all, let's start with our usual roundup. As of about 15 minutes ago, we had a total of 280,496 members. The newest of which is Chris XX, and we have just under 4,300 of active members that are. The forum software is showing me that we have roughly 4,300 active members. So that's always a good thing to know. That number is climbing steadily as people have questions about their machines, as they get new devices and have questions about some of the changes that have occurred, how to keep up with those, and we're certainly glad to answer any questions that someone might have. Keep in mind when you're, I know because of the way we put the chat invite out, some of you may not be members at the moment. To be able to ask a question, you need to be a registered member. This is not that big a deal. Go to the main page and register. It doesn't cost you anything to register. Unless you want to update and become a premium member, you can find more about that on the site. But to ask your question, you do need to be a member. You don't have to be a member to lurk and view questions, but to ask them, you really do. There is a contact us thread, but that's not a good place to ask general troubleshooting questions because it's only seen by the handful of members that are forum moderators and administrators. So go ahead, become a member, and then you can move right into asking questions, and I'm sure you'll be answering them within no time at all. On the first one, I want to point out, and I'll have links to all of this stuff in the show notes. Keep in mind, for the last several weeks, what we've been doing is I don't post all of the show notes beneath the the link to the chat. What happens a lot of times when I do that, the formatting gets all messed up and it's kind of cumbersome to read, especially if you're reading a large amount of text. So what I'm doing is I'll post a link to the Mac Forum thread where all the shows are, and it'll take you that link will take you directly to the post regarding this show, and you'll see kind of a quick text summary and a link to additional details if you need it. I find that to be a little more convenient. I realize it's one more click for you guys, but what it's done is it cuts down on the errors as we try to get stuff posted in two places. There were errors creeping into some of the notes and things like that. So because this gets posted in one place, it's consistent. Let's start with a thread here that, remember, Razor's Edge and OS 4 started about the cheat sheet, keyboard cheat sheet. And they specifically mentioned, I think it was Razor, which mentioned a cheat sheet app that shows you keyboard shortcuts. Now, obviously, I've been using a Mac for a long time, and there's some keyboard shortcuts I remember. For example, I mean, I'm constantly using copy, cut, paste from the keyboard. I almost never do that from mouse. I do a lot of undo from the keyboard, things like that. But there are tons of other keyboard shortcuts that I always forget about. For example, I could never remember the keyboard shortcut for screenshots. There are 2 or 3 of them, depending upon whether you want to do full screen or partial screen, and I can never seem to keep those in track. So one of the things that I do is that's something that I typically do from mouse movement, and that's a little cumbersome sometimes. So I'm seriously thinking about maybe getting a hold of this and see if there's some keyboard shortcuts that are useful that I have forgotten about. That's something you definitely want to look at. As I mentioned, and I'll post this, as I say, in the short show notes, we have several of our members who have already upgraded to Yosemite and did that when it was released last year. They're already in that mode. Microsoft dropped Windows 10 on the world in July, at the end of July. And so now the big question is becoming what's better? Who does what better? Is Windows 10 as good as Yosemite? Is Windows 10 going to be as good as El Capitan? And MacWorld, maybe the UK edition of MacWorld, I'll have to double check the link, came up with some ideas of things that they thought that Windows did a little better and some things that they prefer in OS 10. And one of their comparisons dealt with Windows versus Yosemite. And they compared the two OSs, and although they did still prefer Yosemite, they found a couple of things that they thought Windows 10 did better. One of them is that they prefer the Windows Store to the Mac App Store. And let me see if I can give you an explanation why. As I understand it, I haven't looked into the Windows 10 store very much yet, but the Windows 10 store, because it's using desktop, mobile, and mobile versions of Windows 10, when you purchase an app from the Windows 10 store, you're not having to worry about did I purchase that on the Windows side of the store, you know, on the desktop side, or did I purchase that on the tablet device side? You know, on the way the Mac App Store is arranged, if you want to go to desktop or applications for OS 10, you're going to the Mac App Store. If you want applications for iOS devices, then you're going to the iTunes Music Store, which is sometimes a little bit confusing. I kind of like that because it keeps them separated, but I can see why someone would like going to one place, downloading it once, and having it available across the platforms. That's something that they felt like Windows did better, making it easier for developers to create a single app that would work on tablets and desktop computers. And for users, it simplified things because it gave them one place to keep track of everything, one set of things to keep track of, and the ability to buy an app and not worry about, did I buy the desktop version or did I buy the tablet or portable device version? When you got whatever version you got, would work with all of them and get it in one place. That was one of the things that they preferred. And there were similar things about comparing OS 10, El Capitan, which is the new one, 10.11, which should be out soon, and Windows 10. There were a few things that they preferred with Windows 10. Overall, they preferred El Capitan. One of the things that they found interesting about Windows 10 is they felt like Windows 10 kept, because it brings back the start menu a la Windows 7, which they tried to kill in Windows 8. And but it also has some of the Metro tile look in Windows 10. And they felt like Microsoft did a pretty good job of integrating these two looks into something that was actually useful. I haven't tried to run Windows 10 yet. I've got Windows 7 running in a virtual machine. I will probably put Windows 10 on something soon, just to kind of get a look at it, play around with it. One thing I did notice, and I meant to look up the URL for this today. I saw a post earlier this week talking about privacy issues in Windows 10 and some of the things that are turned on tracking-wise to make use of Cortana, which is their digital assistant, and some other features that people didn't realize that what drives these features is the ability to access information about location information and the same thing. Now, the same thing can be said about OS 10. In order to be fully functional, Siri needs to know certain things, for example, about where you are. But one of the things that is still true is that some of these features are turned on by default in Windows in terms of the sharing of information. They're turned on by default in Windows 10. And some people may not realize that. So if privacy is a concern, I'll try to find that link. It may be a little later in the week before I lay my hands on it again. But I'll put that in both places in the notes as well. There's a list of things that are turned on by default that some people may want to turn off, either because they don't use them or because they don't want to share that level of personal information. So we'll take a look at that as well later in the week as we come up on these things. And now that we're looking at one of the other things, I knew there was something else that they preferred about Windows 10. MacWorld thought that Microsoft had leapfrogged ahead of OS 10, particularly in Yosemite, with Cortana, the way Cortana is integrated with the desktop, and in some ways the searching. They liked Cortana a little bit better in that regard, although I must tell you, Apple has made significant improvements in Spotlight over the years. It's getting better and better. I like it under El Capitan, and I think it's going to continue to improve. But at this point, they thought Cortana handled some things a little bit better. All right, let's move on now to some tips and tricks One or two of these I might have mentioned before, but they caught my eye. One, because I wasn't sure if I had discussed them, and two, because I think even if they have been discussed, they bear repeating because of some potential usefulness. The first one, this is something that I'm sure some of you already knew, and I had not noticed this. When I am writing notes in the Notes app, whether I'm using it on my iPhone or whether I'm on the Mac, generally I'm just knocking off a quick one-off note, and I'm not really worried about formatting. But in some cases, I know why people want to preserve some formatting in their notes. There are times when it helps to make it a little more readable. But one of the things, and you do have those capabilities, adding, making text larger, smaller. In the iOS 9 version, there's support for things like body text, headings, etc. But one of the things that I had not noticed, and this is in the current version of Notes that's in Yosemite, and I think it transfers over to the iOS devices as well. If you're doing what I had been having to do in the past, is take my notes for the show, paste them into the thread on Mac Forum, and then go back and get the links and paste those into place in the right places. Well, that can get a little time consuming. So one of the things that I noticed, and I don't know exactly what led me to this one, but one of the things that I noticed with notes is that you can, as you paste in your notes, if you go to the edit menu, if you select some text and you go to the edit menu and choose insert link, or it's Command K, a box will come up and you can paste the URL into that box. Click OK, and that will take the text that you have selected and turn it into a clickable link. And that means I don't have to go backwards and forwards all the time. For example, the link for this tip I put under the heading of, let's see, where did I put that? I haven't put that one in, but for example, in this next tip, which is the MacWorld Power User Free Yosemite, which is where I think I picked this up, I have that listed under the link Power Users, Power User Tips for Yosemite. That's all the text says, but embedded behind that text is the link to the appropriate article. Another one, and as I say, these come from MacWorld UK. Using your Mac to record output of your iOS device. Now, you've been able to do that in the past using a combination of AirPlay and some third-party software, and jump through a couple of hoops, spinning around 3 times, touch your nose, you know, that kind of thing. There have been a few hoops you had to jump through in most cases. This little tip, in some ways, is nice, particularly if you just need basic recording capability, or you just want to be able to see your iOS device on your Mac screen. So here's what you have to do to make this one work. First thing you do is attach the computer to the iOS device by the USB or by your connector. In other words, it has to be wired. I accidentally put USB in the show notes, but it's through your Lightning connector or whatever you're using. It has to be wired in. I haven't found any indication yet that this can be done wirelessly. And then the next thing to do is open QuickTime Player and select New Recording. Now, for QuickTime Player, what's going to happen is it will usually tend to default to the eyesight camera, if there's one on your Mac. Okay? If it does that, then what you want to do is right-click. There's a down arrow right next to the record button. Click on that down arrow. It's not a right click, it's just a straight click. On that down arrow that's right next to the record button, you should be able to then select your iOS device. Okay? And then go ahead and either project what's on the screen or record it. Either way. So that's a nice little tip. Some people have suggested that you could use this for recording a game that you're playing on your iOS device. I thought of it as a kind of quick way to project something that's on my iOS device. Because some of the others, here's the disadvantage of some of the other software. Some of the other techniques that I'm aware of for projecting the iOS device onto a computer screen depend on both of those devices being on the same network. And that's not always possible. You may find yourself where you have a weak network signal, where you're not on the same network for various reasons, and this will work assuming that you have the appropriate cable connect available. For the iPhone 6, for example, you would need the Lightning to USB connector. All right, so that's the first tip of the week, that using QuickTime to record. QuickTime, by the way, beginning with what's sometimes referred to as QuickTime 10, and sometimes QuickTime X, which was the replacement for QuickTime Pro 7. It has a lot more capability than some people realize, including some basic editing capabilities. So do a little poking around, explore QuickTime. It's another one of those applications that has numerous features that sometimes go unnoticed. The same thing can be said for Preview and some of the others. Let's see if Lisa is here. I'm hoping that she's able to make it. It says she was going to watch. Let's see if she's here. Let's see. Yes, maybe. Let me try sending out the invite. All right. Let's get that going. And I want to change that. I want to find the link. Make that go away. All right. Now, we had a interesting little problem there with the software there for a second. It's like a minor glitch. Let's make this go away too. That's not what I want. As you can tell, this stuff kind of poses an interesting problem occasionally. Hopefully we can get this figured out. All right, now I'm going to keep going as we try to get things working here. Just to check on a couple of things. That list of shortcuts is not very helpful. All right. Now, looks like we might have gotten our viewer back. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about some of the other things that have popped up as far as shortcuts and the like. Tips, tricks, those kinds of things. It's one of those things that comes up every so often. It's something that I would like to make sure I include in this show. Lisa, my apologies. It's taken me a minute to get the link sent here. You might try the join link that I sent you earlier. I think I sent the right one. It is sometimes a little in the way. Here we go. Got it. And looks like I finally found the shortcut that I had set up to remember to send you the link. And so hopefully we'll get everything squared away here. If you'll give me 1 minute, folks. Let's see. I sent that out earlier. Let's see. There we go. Give me that back. I have a minor little problem with the linking today. Go to, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it this way because I know the answer there. All right. And I'll try to keep talking while I'm doing this here. Good luck with that. All right. Let's see. A couple of things occur to me as we're going through some of these tips. And I'm going to go ahead and get this squared away. One quick thing. One of the things that I wanted to be sure that I included, a tip that I found really helpful, and I wanted to be sure that I got included, was this is something that I frequently find myself using. Okay, after I discovered this one, I find that I'm using it more often as I've gotten comfortable with it. Lisa, I'm in the process of sending you a PM here with the link to join tonight's show. I'm going to try to resend that real quick. And it'll be at the bottom of the new, or at the top rather, of the new message, as soon as I can get my mouse to behave itself. Sometimes my trackpad has a mind of its own. That's easier than saying the operator screwed up. We all know what really happened, right? All right, there we go. All right, why is that? There we go. Why is that the right link? That's not it. Okay, 1 second. Minor problem. It did not want me to send that apparently that way. All right, there we go. That's what I needed. Okay. What I was going to mention, the thing that I found so helpful is the ability to, among other things, go into a page that I had been working on, and if I'm doing searches, sometimes, for example, I know that I want to search, let's just take Amazon, for example. Okay, I just sent that message, Lisa. You should get it in just a second with a link to where to go. Let's just say I'm searching Amazon and I want to control, or not control, but I want to confine my search to Amazon. All right. In the past, what I've had to do is a couple of tricks when I typed in the search query, and I can almost never remember that search trick. So here's what someone has suggested, and this is something that I, once I saw this, I discovered that it was more helpful than even I had originally thought. What you have to do, let's say, for example, that you're going to be searching Amazon, okay? I want to confine, I know that what I'm looking for is on Amazon, and I want to confine my search to the Amazon website. Here's another way to do it, okay? Type the site name into Safari's URL bar, followed by a space, and then the search term for what you are searching for. So for example, let us just suppose that I am searching for MacBook Pro batteries. I could go to Amazon, I go into Safari, I go to the top in the URL bar, in the address bar, and I would type in Amazon, followed by a space, followed by some phrase like MacBook Pro batteries, or a specific model of MacBook Pro, that kind of thing. And that is a short way to remember how to confine something to one website. The tip, when I read it, did make one suggestion. For some sites, the search engine seems to know where to go, even if you haven't been there before. There are some sites that are so ubiquitous, for a better word, for lack of a better word, that you kind of know. But there are others where you may have to go to that site once, just so that your browser so the Safari kind of knows this is what they mean. Go to this site, look for this thing. Seems to work with a lot of sites. I tried it a couple of times last night with Amazon and one or two other sites, and seems to work really well. On some sites, you do not need to go there first, as I say. For others, you do. I'd suggest trying it. It's a neat little thing. It can save you a few steps. I have not tried it yet with other browsers besides Safari. Safari tends to be my primary browser, and I haven't tried it with others, like Chrome or Firefox or anything like that yet. I'll try to do that in the coming week and post an update and let you know what happens, if that's workable, if it works for them as well. All right, a couple of other things that I wanted to be sure that I mentioned to you tonight before we close up shop. Let's see. Oh, speaking of which, this is one I definitely don't want to forget. I did not know this until late last night when I looked at the thread. Lisa and Charlie, between the two of them, have a thread going. They started in the forum. Lisa started it with an article that she saw, and Charlie and I have chimed in there in that thread as well. And it has to do with Apple and a problem that they are having with the cameras on some, and I say some because it appears to be a relatively small number, iPhone 6 Plus models. The principal symptom seems to be that no matter what you do, the pictures come out a little blurry. And there's a link there in the article that Lisa mentioned. There's a link to the Apple page where you go to that page, select your country of origin, and put in the serial number of your phone. And then it will tell you if your model is one of the models that's affected. It's a relatively small range in terms of when the phone was manufactured, so yours may not be affected. If it is, it gives you some idea of how to go about getting it fixed. The carriers, the various carriers, are not really saying or doing a whole lot of this. Getting it fixed involves contacting an Apple authorized repair center, or taking it into an Apple store and returning it to Apple. If you're expecting them to fix, and they're not replacing the phones. What they're doing is fixing that one little part that seems to be broken. If you're expecting them to like replace the phone for free and fix other things that are wrong, that's probably not going to happen. That's not what's going on. This mini recall, if you want to call it that, is geared toward these phones and fixing that one specific problem. So if you have other problems with the phone, whether or not that's covered is going to be entirely dependent on your warranty, whether you have Apple Care and the like. But that's something you'll want to know about. I have a link in the show notes that I'll post up in a little bit that has the link to the Apple page. In order to get to your serial number, to find the serial number, I know you just got that nice pristine iPhone box laying around and you've got an easy way to lay your hands on it, okay? But if you're like me and you don't have that laying around anymore, it's easy to find your serial number. What you want to do is go to the settings for your iPhone and then go to General and About. And as you scroll down, it's near the bottom of the screen.
You mean this?
2/3 to 3/4 of the way. Yes, I do mean that. And no, you are probably the only person in the country that has that box laying around. The rest of us look up the serial number on the phone, okay? I should have known you would have that box. But anyway, for those of you that don't have the box, go to your iPhone settings, go to General, and About. And as you scroll down, you'll see various information about your phone, including the serial number. That's the kind of thing that will help you in determining, and then you'll go to the site that I mentioned that I'm going to have in the link, and it will allow you to check to see if that that particular phone is in the list of those that will be recalled or will be fixed. So that's something that you definitely want to check out if you've got one of those devices, got one of those phones, and check that out. Go ahead and get that taken care of. See if you have one of those phones. And that covers a lot of the things that I had for this week. There are others in that power user section that I mentioned for MacWorld. They have a total of about 35 different I'm drawing a blank here, tips for using Yosemite, for using and some of these are tips that you might not necessarily know. First off, they consider them power user tips. Some of our users know these, some do not. So don't be embarrassed if you don't know all of these. There were a few that were new to me that I had not dealt with before, hadn't had a lot of experience with before. It's very hard to keep track of sometimes all of the features that are in place within Yosemite and within all the various incarnations of the OS. So there are a bunch of these that you need to take a look at. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. I'm going to try something and see if we can. I just got Lisa's PM. I'm going to check real quick and see if I can resolve what the problem is. She's having a minor issue trying to join, and I really would like to have her join us, so I'm going to try to take a look at this really quick and see if I can get into what the problem is, or see if I can resolve this a little bit. I think I know what the problem is, and I'm going to see if I can clear it up really quick. What is it? I know what I need. Let's see. Okay. Okay, Lisa, if you're still there, I am going to, what I'm going to do is I've got the link to join. I'll bring that back up. And I'm putting it on your visitor page. I'm about to post a message to your visitor page. And this should, when you click this link, it should be able to let you in. If it doesn't, then something has gone really cuckoo. And we'll have to figure out what's going on with that. And there we go. The message is up there, and we'll stick around for a few minutes and see if Lisa can make it. I kind of hope so. It'd be kind of interesting to hear some of her thoughts on some of these matters. She's a relatively new member, but obviously quite well versed in various computer-related things, and even though relatively new to full-time Mac use, has proven to be a rather knowledgeable member. So that's something that you always want to have around. Get rid of that. I don't need that. I accidentally put the wrong thing on the Google screen here, and it put up something that I never use and have no intention of using. So we'll just get that out of the way. All right. Now, that kind of does it for most of the tips that we had. I do want to be sure that the one other thing that I kind of clear up a little bit. I'm not personally expecting El Capitan to hit the App Store, if you will, for probably about another month. I think you can easily look for end of September to mid-October as a release date. I'm going to try shortly after it's released to have kind of a roundup show, if you will, that discusses some of the tips and changes, things that you can do in El Capitan that you cannot easily do right now without third-party software. There are several things that I find really helpful. Pinned tabs is working really well for me. I'm using it a lot. The ability to split screen, where you've got two apps on the screen at the same time, two windows rather on screen at the same time. Both of those are things that I'm finding really helpful. So I'm hoping to, shortly after El Capitan is released, probably within the same week, we'll try to get a show out about the differences, about the changes, and that way you will have a good summary, if you will, if you're thinking about moving up to the new operating system. If you, as far as minimum system requirements, it's really looking like if you have the capability of running Yosemite, you have the ability to run El Capitan. For me, they are running similarly in terms of better or worse. I don't know that I could say. Well, one thing I can say, for me, in some respects, El Capitan is running a little bit better. I was getting some minor beach balls under Yosemite that I'm not getting as many of in El Capitan. So that's a positive for me. There are other things about it that seems to be running equally well, and I'm on an older machine, so it's running okay on my 2008 MacBook Pro. I am running with about 8 gigabyte of RAM, but I tend to have anywhere from 3 to 5 applications open at a time, although none of them, for the most of the time, they're not intensive applications like Photoshop, those kinds of things. But I do tend to have multiple things, and it seems to work reasonably well. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to give you some good insight on it. I've been running it for a while, well, since shortly after the beta was announced. And it's been pretty stable for me. In fact, it's not been instability. It's been an app here and there that I needed to upgrade, update, etc., etc., etc. There's always that. There haven't been a lot of those, though. They fixed various bugs as we've gone along. I know that because some of the things that did not work for me in the beginning are working now. That kind of thing. So keep that in mind as you upgrade. It was an easy upgrade for me in part because my system was current. If you make a big jump of multiple operating systems, let's say, we have something going on right now with people who are just now updating to Yosemite. And one of the things that seems to be true for a lot of them is if they are a couple of OS versions behind, say they're updating from 10.6 to 10.10 or 10.7 to 10.10, they might be better off doing a clean install. It seems like the people who are having the most issues are those that have somehow leapfrogged. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, a lot of people do it that way. They wait a couple of OS versions. If you're thinking about going to Yosemite and you haven't, I might suggest to you wait about 6 weeks and look at what the info comes out about El Capitan. Then decide which one is better for you after you've made some kind of overview. Don't be the one to be the first one to jump on the train. I mean, not everyone needs to grab the newest OS the first day it's out. Any OS, no matter who the manufacturer is, no matter what platform you're talking about, even with fairly extensive testing, is going to have issues periodically. Let somebody else be the ones that works the kinks out, so to speak, unless you just enjoy doing that kind of stuff. And I've said that all along, and I say that for Windows. I say that for Apple. It's the same situation. Oh, and there's one other one I want to be sure and mention. More and more now, I saw a post earlier yesterday from someone. We're seeing more of this malware. It seems to go in cycles. We've gone a couple of weeks without a lot of reports in the forum about this. We're seeing this malware garbage again, where somebody pops up, a message pops up and says, your computer has been infected with a virus. And it comes from a report. It has a link, and it appears to be from Apple. Well, if you look carefully at the link and the address associated with the link, it's not from Apple. And so, oh, wow. Let's see. I'll tell you what, it opens another window, but it comes up in front of it. Okay. I'll tell you what we're gonna do, folks. We have kind of wrapped up a lot of things that I was going to talk about today. Lisa and I are having a little trouble working out the chat protocol. While I've got her free for a minute, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'm going to see if I can help her figure it out, because I really would like to have her here on a future show. So if you guys beg really hard, maybe she'll make it next week. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this collection of tips and tricks. We'll have some more for you next week. I'll try to find a lot more interesting things. And Lisa, when I break out of this, if you're still watching, when I break out of this, I'm going to try to initiate a call just from me to you without going through the Mac Forum chat window, and see if we can get that going. And if we can't, maybe I can help you figure out what's going on. As you can tell, that software doesn't like me all the time either. So guys, that's going to do it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll have the show notes up shortly. They will probably be up later this evening. If not, they will be up by this time tomorrow. No sweat. It shouldn't take very long. With the way I have them formatted in notes this week, it really shouldn't take long. So look for the URL for the Mac Forum thread, then go to that post in the thread. The link will take you directly there, and you'll see notes about everything that we talked about this week. That's going to do it for this week. I've enjoyed it. I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Until next time, I'm your host, Sly Dude on the forum, and I will see you next week.